Python Popen fails in compound command, PowerShell. I am trying to use Python's Popen to change my working directory and execute a command. However, PowerShell returns, the system cannot find the path specified. The path does exist. If I run, it returns the same thing. However, if I run this, without the semicolon, the command returns without an error. This leads me to believe that the semicolon is issue. What is the cause for this behavior and how can I get around it? I know I can just do c:/mydirectory/run executable.exe, help, but I would like to know why this is happening. Update. I have tested passing the path to PowerShell as the argument for Popen's executable parameter. Just PowerShell.exe may not be enough. To find the true absolute path of PowerShell, execute where.exe PowerShell. Then you can pass it into Popen. Note that shell is still true. It will use the default shell but pass the command to PowerShell.exe.
In your subprocess.popen call, shell equals true means that the platform's default shell should be used. While the Windows world is, commendably, moving from cmd.exe to PowerShell, Python determines what shell to invoke based on the comspec environment variable, which still points to cmd.exe, even in the latest W10 update that has moved toward PowerShell in terms of what the GUI offers as the default shell. For backward compatibility, this will not change anytime soon, and will possibly never change. Therefore, your choices are: use CMD syntax, as suggested in Maurice Meyer's answer. Do not use shell equals true and invoke PowerShell.exe explicitly, see below. Windows only, redefine environment variable comspec before using shell equals true, see below. A simple Python example of how to invoke the PowerShell binary directly, with command line switches followed by a single string containing the PowerShell source code to execute. Note that I've deliberately used PowerShell instead of PowerShell.exe, because that opens up the possibility of the command working on Unix platforms too, once PowerShell core is released. Windows only, an example with shell equals true, after redefining environment variable comspec to point to PowerShell first. Note: comspec is only consulted on Windows. On Unix platforms, the shell executable is invariably /bin/sh. As of Windows PowerShell version 5.1/PowerShell Core v6 beta.3, invoking PowerShell with just C, interpreted as command, still loads the profiles files by default, which can have unexpected side effects. With the explicit invocation of PowerShell used above, NoProfile suppresses that. Changing the default behavior to not loading the profiles is the subject of this GitHub issue, in an effort to align PowerShell's CLI with that of POSIX-like shells.
You can concat multiple commands using and a character instead of a semicolon. Try this.
Die Hauptsache, Pissens Lines schreiben.